Okay, let's get some analysis on the Brics Summit, and we're joined by Sourabh Gupta, an international relations policy specialist. It's so good to see you again.
Good to see you, Sean.
Well, let's talk about this year's summit, the first since the expansion. I want you to first talk about this expansion, why it is important, and what should we look for coming out of this important summit?
I think the expansion is important and very important because it makes the BRICS a much more representative body. The BRICS already was representative enough since they had very major countries of the global south. But this has added to the representativeness of the global south. You know, we have Arab countries now, Muslim countries, which really have not had the sort of representation within these
Sure.
frameworks at the multilateral level too. And it's a welcome development. Some of these BRICS countries have internal issues with each other, and yet that they can stand above their differences and find common purpose on many of the important global challenges for the global south and for the international system, I think says a lot. And I think considering that this is the first major expansion, I think it is a significant deal.
You know, and there's strength in numbers. There's no question about that. So let's talk about how BRICS is reshaping and shifting world order. A lot of these nations had simply been overlooked by some of the major developed nations for so long. And I think it's kind of interesting that this important meeting is going to go on in Russia at the same time the IMF is meeting here in Washington, D.C. This is important for BRICS to really show they have a seat at the big table.
Yes, it is important to show that they have a seat at the BRIC table, and also the number of countries which want to enter the mechanism itself is staggering, frankly. And it just shows how everybody does want to be connected with the BRICS in some way, shape, or form, because they see it as an opportunity to have their interests pursued within a larger forum, which has not been given the requisite attention within other forums, either because they're too broad-based or because the countries don't have that sort of voice. BRICS allows them to have that voice to make those their point across and make that point across clearly. It's interesting. It's happening too at the time of the International Monetary Fund meetings, World Bank, IMF meetings, because one of the key areas of grievance, and this is not just a small handful of countries, is the enormous domination of the US dollar, as well as of late its weaponization, which has added a fair deal of uncertainty within the monetary system. That monetary system was ripe for reform. It's a long process. It's not going to happen gradually, but the BRICS provides the capability to develop an infrastructure framework, an alternative infrastructure framework, which can compete with the dollar in some regards and help the BRIC countries feel a little bit more assured in terms of their financial transactions with each other.
You know, I think you're exactly right, too, when you talked about how a lot of these nations may not see eye to eye on everything, but they're finding a way to move forward, especially with trade deals and other negotiations and knocking down barriers that have been up for so long. So how does it aim to improve world order, the BRICS plus its expansion?
The BRICS is fundamentally centered on UN-centered multilateralism. That needs to be the framework. That was the framework and continues to be the framework, but many of the powerful countries have departed from that framework and use it to their convenience when it is convenient, and go on unilateral or in like-minded little cliques and devise policies when it's to their convenience. The BRICS is fundamentally committed to that UN-centered world, and many of the smaller countries see that UN-centered system as the essential basis of their protection in the international system. By hewing to the rules and norms of that international system, and not all BRIC countries have done so. I mean, Russia's actions have been in violation, frankly, of those rules and norms. But the broader project is that by hewing to those rules and norms and upholding and championing that as the BRICS countries get more powerful and the global south gets more powerful, it can force the global north to also adhere to those global standards and not go by their own unilateral standards and make those the next global standards. And so I think from this perspective, the BRICS has a very important role to play, regardless of the differences within amongst themselves, because they have a common consensus and a common view on the importance of the UN-centered international system, which was founded in 1945.
Yeah, I want to talk a bit more about that because BRICS, obviously, we're going to be focusing on the trade deals, the economic benefits, but one of the key goals is bringing about world peace, trying to settle these ongoing conflicts. You mentioned Ukraine and Russia, also the area that is the lightning rod, if you will, of the Middle East right now. And with all this geopolitical rival, these are nations that could have a very important say in bringing some sort of semblance of normalcy, trying to knock down these huge fires.
Oh, absolutely. And this broader representativeness absolutely helps that process. For example, first of all, as countries are becoming more confident of themselves and rising up the ladder, and you see that with regard to China, and you see that with regard to Brazil, standing out and putting an independent peace proposal with regard to Ukraine, which does not have which may have some input, but is not dictated by parties like the G7 or the Global North. Now, Ukraine is a long distance away from China or from Brazil, and yet that peace framework that they're trying to set up has already got many takers. Therein is one sign of how they're playing a role for peace in the area of global flashpoints. Of course, coming to the Middle East, we have many of these countries, the new entrants, who are both security partners of the United States, but at the same time, also now new BRIC members. So they come in with new ideas. They did not have a platform on which they could stand and put forth and push forth those ideas. BRICS now provides that platform to do so, and the broader representativeness of BRICS, both geographically, ethnically, and religiously, I think will just enable a greater a better and more enlightened approach to problem solving in the international system.
And I think you're right when you say those voices carry further each and every year. Sourabh Gupta, my friend, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight.
You're most welcome, Sean. Take care.